Cardiac Cats, the Florida Panthers return home and get a comeback victory against a team that has owned the Panthers over the last few years on 90s night from Amerant Bank Arena.
Your Locked On Panthers, your daily podcast on the Florida Panthers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
And welcome into this Friday, January 12th edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. Thank you for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. I'm Armando Velez from the Hockey News, and you can follow me on X at MondoMan12. Follow the show account on X and Instagram at LO_FLA Panthers. And shout out to the everydayers who come back here and get your daily Florida Panthers fix. And today's episode is brought to you by Sleeper. Download the Sleeper app and use promo code LOCKEDONHL to get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. So, Florida Panthers fans, this game was one that was really fun to watch. That was not a lot of space that was given from the opposition to another, really, until the Florida Panthers really got their legs going, really, in the second part of the first period. I mean, the Panthers really had a hard time starting the first two periods, and then really the Florida Panthers got it going in the third, got a goal in the second period for the Panthers, and then get the goal on the extra attacker, and then Sam Reinhart with the overtime winner with less than a second left for the Panthers to get the 2 points and snap their 6-game losing streak against the Los Angeles Kings. But it is a Friday, and it is a Fairbanks Friday edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, where Nick Fairbanks is here. And Nick, how are you doing today, my friend?
I don't know. I kind of, started the game a little, sluggish, kind of like the Panthers. And then as the game kind of wore on, got a little bit of excitement. And then, that second period, how that ended, I kind of wanted to go back to sleep. And then the third period came on, and you just knew something great was about to happen. So I'm feeling elated right now.
Yeah, I got off to a slower start as well, because I woke up this morning. I wanted to go to one of my favorite places. That place is called the Sports Authority, in order to get some sports gear and all. Then I had to get a present for a family member. So I went to my local Toys R Us, and then I wanted to watch a movie. So I went to my local Blockbuster as well, as far as entertainment, right before this game between the Florida Panthers and the Los Angeles Kings from Miami Arena. Oh, excuse me. We're in 2024, so going with the 90s theme here to open up. But by the way, the old Blockbuster that I used to go to when I was a kid in West Kendall is now a Mattress One, and the old Sports Authority that I used to go to in Kendall Village is now a Burlington. So rest in peace to both of those places. And, of course, Toys R Us. I don't know what the Toys R Us in Town and Country is in Miami-Dade is now. I believe it's an abandoned building. But crazy to think with Florida Panthers coming back on to Amerant Bank Arena on 90s night, where like we spoke about, sluggish start for the Panthers. Before the first TV timeout, it was 10-2 shots on goal advantage for the Panthers and the Los Angeles Kings in this one to start. And man, and then as the period went on, I mean, really the person who set the tone, in my opinion, was Sam Bennett, really, for the Panthers. Even though the Panthers weren't getting on the scoreboard, he was in front, redirecting pucks out in front of the crease and all. And then he's rewarded later on with the goal. I mean, I mean, even though this was a game of strength on strength when it came to special teams, Panthers scored their first goal 2 seconds after a power play ended. They scored their second goal with an extra attacker on with 2 minutes left. As they gained the zone and then were quick to get the puck as well before Matthew Tkachuk redirected as well. 7 goals now in the year 2024. And then in overtime where Kempe cross-checks Brandon Montour in the far corner. And then, my goodness, Sam Reinhart once again, power play Sam. And I didn't think the Panthers were going to get a shot off to begin with when the LA Kings cleared the zone, and then Barkov with a entry gets it to Sam Reinhart backhand, top shelf and all. And a lot of posts were hit tonight too, as well for both teams as well. And just strength, like I said, strength on strength. And against a team that, yeah, the LA Kings are struggling, now lost 7 straight, but the Panthers extend their winning streak to 9 and carrying over everything from that road trip.
Yeah, definitely had some rust coming back home. I mean, the body kind of resets and gets more comfortable, so it's much harder to, I guess, get back in the game when you're back to your familiar surroundings. But Florida stuck with it. They didn't really allow too much to happen. LA did have more of the chances, but Bob, and I joke about this in our chat that he made $30 million worth of saves tonight. So,
Oh yeah,
he definitely was probably the best player, but you have to give it to Sam Bennett. He's been playing a lot better as of late, and I think he's fully healthy now. And you can just see that the impact that he has on this team and on the game. We saw it during the playoffs last year, and then now as we see him fully healthy, he's being able to contribute in different ways, not only with a big hit, but with a big play on the puck. And Matthew Tkachuk getting hot at the right time, Carter Verhaeghe being able to shoot the way that he does. Everything is going well for that second line. So kudos to them. And then as far as, the actual gameplay, again, strength on strength, defense against defense. Both of these teams, if I had to choose what would happen to them later in this season, I could see both of them in the conference finals. I'm not going to say Stanley Cup, but both of them have the pedigree, they have the defense, and they have the goaltending that can get them there. So don't be surprised if these are 2 of the Final 4 teams still standing.
Wouldn't be surprised. And I think I think LA is very fortunate that Edmonton has struggled to, out of the gate to start the season. So they're likely not going to face Connor McDavid in round 1 this year. So maybe there's a chance for them to advance later on in the period as well. And also the penalty killing for the Panthers. I know that they gave up 1 on the power play in this one as well. But I mean, you think about where the Panthers, I mean, they were taking away a lot of the lanes. There was 1 power play where they didn't give up a shot on goal. Unfortunately, there was a situation where there was a face-off with Sam Reinhart and Philip Deneau. He crashes into the board. Don't know what the status of him is, but he did come back into the game as well. But you saw the bang and bruise, and unfortunately, the one that the power play goal that the LA Kings did have was towards the end of the second period. Ekblad gets a holding call, which if you look at the replay again, referee's on the far side. Ekblad is reaching for his stick with his stick from the near side. So with that angle, you can't see where his glove is on the hip on the other side. So a little bit of an ambitious call as well, and also a little bit of an ambitious call in overtime too, where Bob got the puck in his glove and was ready to get it down to Sasha Barkov to make a stretch for Brandon Montour to go on a breakaway in overtime as well. So that's a little thing that we can point out as far as that. But tight checking game, not a lot of space. Neutral zone was really hard to get by for the Panthers at times, especially after that last kill before the game tying goal. It took them a little bit of time to gain the zone as well. But and here's a stat that I tweeted. I don't know if you saw it, but I wanna actually read it on the air about the LA Kings. They do not give up leads, especially on the road. And this is the stat for the LA Kings. They entered tonight's game with a road record of 10-0-2 when scoring first, 8-0 when leading after the first, and 11-0-2 when leading after 40. All those went up with the Florida Panthers comeback, and you beat a team that does not give up leads. And when you think about the Panthers going up against contending teams, and I know they struggled against the Western Conference teams to start the season. And I know the Western Conference is more of top-heavy conference for as far as the top teams, but got to be hella pleased. And honestly, I would not have been mad if the Panthers ended up losing this game because of how close it was, and you saw that the consistent good habits of what they were doing as far as back checking, winning some board battles as well, and getting in front as well.
Definitely. I mean, I think there was a sense of that, following the second period when you had that, and I'll call it a phantom call on Ekblad because there was nothing there. I mean, you said there was an angle, but as far as like from what the ref was able to see or not see, and unfortunately that came to bite the Panthers back at the end of the second period. And then you go into overtime, and some people are calling the Montour penalty kind of a phantom call because they believe that Kempe didn't really cross-check him that hard and that he did a good diving cell job. But you know what? They get a goal. We get a goal. Everything evens out at the end of the night. And, unfortunately, it worked out in the Panthers. Well, fortunately, it worked out in the Panthers' favor. But for LA, just the timing wasn't right. And then, you have these teams that are just going back and forth. And, you got the idea that maybe Florida might not be able to pull this out. The neutral zone is so clogged, and it took them a long time in the third period to be able to bust through. And that's what LA does. They smother people, they clog up the neutral zone, and they're able to effectively cut off any kind of pucks that go in and then just take over. But this team has proven over the last couple of seasons that there's no quit. There's nothing that's ever out of their grasp. They can be down 4 goals from a few seasons ago and put up 5 and win the game. Or, they could do what they did tonight, stick with the game plan again and get the extra attacker on, get the puck to your shooters for Hagee, tip by Tkachuk. It's like it's, reciprocal. So,
yeah,
good teams find ways to win, and other teams who just are not quite there will always be able to be like, they're shutting it down tonight. We should shut it down too. And Florida does not do that.
They definitely don't do that, and that's a great thing to see as they continue to create just the consistent winning, as far as never quitting, as far as you think that they're gonna sit back, but then you see a quick rush, and then you say, oh, it's in the back, and then it ends up in the back of net somehow for them. And can just continuing on for Sam Reinhart, goal number 30, just incredible. And I'm at a loss for words of how great the season has been for this guy. But we're going to transition over to segment number 2, where we're going to discuss more about our 3 stars of the game and when we thought this game was won or lost. We're going to discuss that and more here on the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Sleeper, and we're at the halfway point of the NHL season, and regardless of where the Panthers are in the standings, where with the Panthers getting the 2 points tonight, and the puck drop being underway in Vegas between the Bruins and the Golden Knights, with a chance for a regulation loss for the Bruins, the Panthers could take control of first place in the Atlantic due to owning the tiebreaker in regulation wins. But I want to remind you that you could win big by playing daily fantasy hockey on Sleeper, the official daily fantasy app of the Locked On NHL Network. Sleeper is our #1 choice for daily fantasy sports, especially daily fantasy hockey, because with Sleeper, you can win 100 times your daily fantasy contests. All you have to do is pick for studs like Connor McDavid, Sidney Crosby, Nathan McKinnon, Sam Reinhart, Sergei Bobrovsky, if they'll record more or less than Sleeper projections like goals, assists, saves, plus, minus, and more in a given game. To win a 100 times bet on Sleeper, you need to correctly predict the outcome of 8 player stats. You heard me, Cats fans. You can win 100 times your money playing daily fantasy hockey with Sleeper. So start paying attention and nail your picks so you can start winning big. So use promo code LOCKEDONNHL to get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. That's code LOCKEDONNHL. See Sleeper's terms of use for detail and locational availability. Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with local experts on Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. All right, Nick. Before we get to 3 stars of the game, that playlist was awesome for the game. We were not in the arena tonight, but very just, little nostalgia as far as the playlist for 90s night, and wish they like a lot of fans, I wish they had the Leaping Panther sweaters as far as that, but
Yeah.
we're only going to see the patch. By the way, it is still Cutler Ridge Mall, and it's still Miami Metro Zoo in my heart of hearts as far as that. I'm not going to go as far as saying it's still Joe Robbie Stadium because I grew up with calling it Pro Player Stadium, and it's the so as far as that. But when we thought this game was won or excuse me, let's go to 3 stars first as far as that. For me, my 3 stars are Sam Reinhart. You got to give it to him with the overtime winner. Matthew Tkachuk with the game tying goal, and Sam Bennett gets my 3rd star of the game. Matthew Tkachuk had 9 shots on goal. He was consistently getting in front in the dirty areas as well, and even shooting from distance as well. Barkov 5 shots on goal, an honorable mention for him as well. So, who are your 3 stars for this one tonight, Nick?
So I'll start with number 3. It's going to be Sam Bennett. The guy's just been on a. It just seems like he's been doing everything right and just hasn't been really rewarded for it. And finally tonight he gets the breakthrough goal, which gets the Panthers going. 2nd star I'm going to give to Sergei Bobrovsky because, as I said earlier, he made about $30 million worth of saves tonight, and he's been the key on this winning streak. I know Stellaris won the last one, but Bob is looking like Bob of old, so he might as well be in the 90s right now. So, and then my 1st star, yes, is Rhino. It just seems like whenever he's touching the puck, something's going to happen, and I could not believe that Doughty backed off him. That to me, that it's like you got to take care of business. You got to take care of the guy who's hot.
Yeah, and I understand that you're on the PK at that moment when you're down 4-on-3 as well, and with how hot he is, you just have to draw towards him. But also think about overtime. The Panthers didn't start with a defenseman in the overtime period. They had 2 lines of forwards before the first whistle, and then Montour got on with Reinhart and Barkov as well. So that's another thing as far as that. So that is definitely something of notice as far as puck possession. And it took a while even for the Panthers in overtime as far as getting quality chances, but they led the shots on goal in the overtime period 5-1. But even in the 3rd period, the shot attempts were 22-10, but the Panthers they were missing the net a lot in the late stages of the 3rd period and getting their shots blocked. So it's funny because they had their shot attempts were 22-10 at 5-on-5, but they were outshot on actual shots on goal in the period 8-9. So only 1 shot attempt by the LA Kings in the 3rd period at 5-on-5 missed or blocked. So that's another thing as far as something I noticed on the night as well. But as far as when we thought this game was won or lost, the moment that we thought it was, I was gonna go with when the Panthers killed the penalty before they tied it. But I'm always thinking about these during the game, obviously. But with the time it took for the Panthers to get in the zone in the first place, when Paul Maurice decided to put the extra attacker, which I'm surprised it was that early, honestly, for the Panthers. But with how they were rolling, I can kind of understand. But it has to be when Kempe went to the box for that penalty against Montour. I'm thinking, okay, the Panthers are rolling. They're hot. They have all the momentum. So this is going to be the moment when they officially take this game from the LA Kings. Like we said in the first segment, a team that does not surrender leads. And by the way, this was the Panthers' first win against the LA Kings since January of 2020. So 2 games in a row where you exercise some demons against Western Conference teams with victories pre-COVID. Well, the St. Louis Blues streak against them is a road losing streak against St. Louis, but this one is an overall losing streak against the LA Kings, 6 straight games. So my moment, the penalty on Adrian Kempe that eventually led to the overtime winner for Sam Reinhart, goal number 30.
So I'm going to add the Golden Knights win. as well to that list of exercising demons, because I don't think Florida's ever won there until this win streak. So I'll add that game. But as far as when this game was won, it's so hard to say because you didn't know if Florida was going to get the chance to actually tie it. And then when they get the opportunity to actually win it and everything, you'd be right on the money with the Kempe, penalty. But as far as, the actual team play, when I thought they were going to win, when they finally took Rodriguez off of that line and they put Montour on, I saw that they were changing their transition game, and Bob being able to make that save and then wanting to spring Montour. That has been a design by the coaching staff for the last 2 years. And sorry if I'm stumbling over my words, but it's been something that they've been doing over the last couple of years, and it's been so successful that, that's why Bob held on to it for a second and then was going to let it go, and there was a fast whistle, unfortunately. But I think when Bob made that save, I think the Panthers were going to win that. I mean, just not only just making sure the game was continuing, but also he was looking up ice to get the puck up to Montour, and I think Montour would have put it in. So, again, I got to give props to Bob, and I think that's when Florida won the game.
Yeah, and also Florida is 3-1 in overtime this year, and also something of note is when they called the timeout right before the power play started, knowing that. And I don't know necessarily what was said on the bench, obviously from Jamie Compton, but the ability to slow things down, knowing you're going to get your top guns on the ice, and knowing the mindset of, we got the rest of the period, a man advantage. If anything, okay, we do not want to get it into a shootout, because you could flip a coin and a goalie could stop everything, even though the opposition would have the better chances in the overtime period. But ending it in overtime because was huge for the Panthers as well, and that timeout was big for the Panthers as well, getting that when they could just to buy a little bit more of time and then get more strategy. But once again, just that quick zone entry for the Panthers, as far as that is, and two of their goals ended were because of quick zone entries. And also I want to credit the Panthers as far as face-off numbers, 58% to 42. And Jameson Olive of FloridaPanthers.com pointed this out in the latest episode of Territory Talk, that all four lines during the road trip were over 50% in the dot as far as puck possession. That's extremely crucial on the power play as well. So big props to everyone involved as well. So we're going to transition over to segment number 3, where we are going to turn the page for this one, as the Panthers look to extend their winning streak to 10 games on Saturday night against the New Jersey Devils. We're going to discuss this and more here on the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Jace Medical. And I know we come to sports to escape the crazy realities of real life, but can we talk for a minute about getting prepared for real life? According to the FDA, pharmacies are running out of antibiotics like amoxicillin right in the middle of the worst flu season over a decade. And this is scary. You can't imagine more helpless feeling than if a family member of mine or one of their kids got sick while supply chain issue kept them from a life-saving medication that they needed. Thankfully, we'll be okay because of Jace Medical. The Jace case is a pack of 5 different antibiotics to treat a long list of bacterial illnesses like UTIs, respiratory infections, sinusitis, skin infections, among others. This stuff could happen to any of us. Visit jacemedical.com and complete your physician encounter. It will be reviewed by a board-certified physician, and your medications will be dispensed by a licensed pharmacy at a fraction of the regular cost. It's never been more important than today. Go to jacemedical.com and use offer code Locked On to get $20 off your order. That's JASE medical.com. Welcome back to this Friday, January 12th edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Thank you once again for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day here on a Friday, here on a Fairbanks Friday edition of the show where the Panthers extend their winning streak to 9. And Nick, by the way, I think because it's 90s night, I'm gonna keep the 90s theme going, and I think I'm gonna take an opportunity to probably watch the Rugrats. Honestly, after this one is posted and all, don't work tomorrow either way. And it's still scary to think that Rugrats is older than me, too, even though I was born in the early 90s as well. By the way, the amount of hidden adult jokes in that show is crazy. If you guys look up YouTube videos, and not going to say them on the air, but yeah.
You're making me want to go watch Rocko's Modern Life right now.
Oh,
that was my show.
That's another good one too. So, but anyways, going into this one, the Panthers, they'll welcome in the New Jersey Devils. They actually lost in overtime against the Tampa Bay Lightning. Back and forth game. Had them dual casted both of them on the night. And here's a stat that Bally Sports Sun provided as far as this is assuming that Vitek Vanacek is the starter for the New Jersey Devils on Saturday. He has a 788 save percentage on slot shots. Like, not good. And the Devils are also going through a heck of a lot of injuries. Jack Hughes is week to week. Timo Meier missed tonight's game. Andre Palat, Dougie Hamilton is out for the season, and Jonas Siegenthaler was out with a foot injury. So the New Jersey Devils look as battered and bruised as the Miami Dolphins going into their wild card game this weekend. So this is the situation that the Florida Panthers found themselves in. They haven't faced the Devils since game number 3 of the season, where, if want to remind everyone what happened, Panthers got off to a big lead and survived that one. Comeback fashion from a comeback attempt, from the New Jersey Devils, and the Panthers were still able to pull that one off. It was their third road game right before their home opener against the Leafs. So the big opportunity for the Florida Panthers on Saturday to extend this 1-10. And honestly, with how hot they're rolling, you can't take any opponent for granted as far even with their injury situation.
No, you can. And, this is the one that I think is, the trap game. Just because I know New Jersey's dealing with all those injuries. They don't have solid goaltending. And the stat that you just threw up with the 788 save percentage and slot shots, you're going to have to expect Sam Reinhart to feast a little bit. Hopefully Barkov can, get on the score sheet as far as a goal. I know he's got 15 assists in the last couple games, but just not the New Jersey Devils that we've been used to over the last couple of years. I know that everybody's hyped them up and everything, but, their stars have to step up and they got to be healthy. So as, the Florida Panthers come into this game, they have to just treat it like any other game and, not fall victim to, hey, this team's injured. They're going to play below us. Don't play down to your opponent. Just play your game and you'll get the result most likely that you're looking for.
Yeah. And what won't be easy for the Panthers as you can't look ahead as far as as far as an opponent, even though they are struggling with the injuries and all that stuff for the New Jersey Devils. But for the Panthers, it's just an opportunity for them to just continue building off what they have and all. And I mean, you think about, even though for the Panthers, I mean, you look at the top 2 lines. I mean, they're getting scoring from everywhere. Yeah, it's more than a good majority of the goals. You still want to see more from the bottom 6 as well. And even though it's a unit as far as the bottom 6 that's not getting a lot, it's really hard for me to see where the top 6 can be slowed down at least for long periods of time. And if they are, it's gonna be very short for the Panthers. I mean, we're just weeks removed from them getting shut out in back-to-back games for the Panthers and all. But you think about when the calendar turned to 2024, just the not necessarily getting lucky, but Matthew Tkachuk even spoke about it a few days ago, where he hasn't changed a thing about his game. And Paul Maurice even going back to that quote in mid-December saying, when a lot of people are going to think that Tkachuk is back, but in reality, he was never gone. And I think that's very fitting when it comes to what someone like Tkachuk has done over the last 11 days since the calendar flipped to 2024.
Definitely. And, it's good that the top two lines are clicking right now. What you have to start wondering about is what's going on with the bottom six. It seems like Stenlund is doing his job, and he's doing it pretty well. Ryan Lomberg is always going to be that pest, and he's got the speed and always creating chances. However, you got to start looking at the Lundells. You got to start looking, if and I really hope I don't say what I think I was about to say, but Gadjovich or Gradovich?
Gadjovich.
Gadjovich. Okay, sorry, we have a nickname for him, so I didn't want to say that. But I would like to see him pot a goal, and I would love to see number 67 pot his first goal of the season and just get that off his back, because he almost scored last game, and if he would have just been able to tuck the puck home, that would have been amazing. But I think the third line needs to get going, and then the fourth line will just supplement all that. But Anton Lundell's got to figure something out. He's got Eetu Luostarinen that's there, who's playing really well. But, I think the goals will start coming. The points will start coming as well. He needs to settle down a little bit.
Yeah, and I've seen a few shifts where the fourth line is boxing the opposition out when there's a zone entry. There was one where Kevin Stenlund and Gadjovich box him out, and then William Lockwood gets the puck and then drives for a shot attempt as well. Actually, I would have had an interesting nickname for Gadjovich. This one is Safe for Work, and I looked up this show to see if it was 90s because I wasn't sure, but it's not. it's actually 80s. Inspector Gadget, but it's not 90s. It's early 80s actually, but I did grow up watching the movie as well. So that could be also.
It seems like he can do everything. I mean, we just need to get him on the scoreboard so he can score, he can hit, he can fight. I mean, he would be Inspector Gadget of this team. So I think that fits.
Yeah, no doubt. And right now, with the tenacity that he brings, and with the fourth line, their identity is being a forechecking line as well. He fits that mold as far as that. So great to see that William Lockwood is continuing, and Gadjovich and Stenlund are all still committing to the system that Paul Maurice is putting together, and it's still resulting in wins, even though not off to the best of starts. I saw that in the first period on Natural Stat Trick that it was 0-5 as far as Corsi 4, as far as that, but still, it's not for lack of effort for those guys, no doubt. But Nick, I want to thank you so much for joining me on this edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, where the Florida Panthers get a 3-2 overtime win over the Los Angeles Kings to snap their 6-game losing streak over LA and extending their current winning streak to 9, still the third longest winning streak of their franchise history. So tell everybody where they can follow you online.
Armando, as always, thank you for having me on, and everybody else, you guys can follow me on X at Prudentia0. Can't wait to do this again next week. And you know what? Saturday night, let's get 10. Let's do it.
We want 10. Yes, yes. That's a very familiar phrase here in South Florida for sure. But thanks so much once again, my friend, and I will see you next week.
See you next week.
And if you like what you're hearing, please subscribe to the podcast to be notified every single time the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast jumps into your podcast feed. Don't forget to also subscribe to the other shows on the Locked On NHL network, including Locked On NHL, Locked On Fantasy Hockey with Flip Livingstone and Stu Roden, and Locked On NHL Prospects. Thank you once again for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. So I'm Armando Velez with Nick Fairbanks, and you've been listening to Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day.